Mornings with Eloy on Hot 101.7, Sonoma County's hit music station. Welcome back to another episode of the Pride Month interview series. Today, I'm very excited because our guest today is a singer and songwriter who first got his first taste of fame in 2010 and has continued to make music ever since with a new recent album, Portraits, and recent singles as well. His name is Greyson Chance. How are you doing, Greyson? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much for having me. Happy Pride.
Thank you. You too. I wanted to know, how are you doing right now, given quarantine and all this kind of weird shenanigans going on right now?
Well, I went in 2019. We had ended the year by playing 108 shows around the world, and it's looking like that number is going to be significantly smaller this year. But I've been okay. I've been in quarantine in Oklahoma, where I'm from originally, and, you know, as with everybody right now, I think you have your good and bad days, but I've just been adjusting and figuring out how to be an artist in a pandemic.
Right. I think it's kind of this weird, unprecedented will probably be the weird buzzword for the year, but it does kind of seem that way, especially for artists too, just trying to figure out how to navigate, you know, your career and your artistry given such a confining and constricting time.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny too, because my mom was sort of poking fun at me the other day where she was like, all of last year you were talking about how you wanted to be home. And she said, now you're home for a long time and you're just calling me every day going, I'm miserable. I want to get back on stage. I want to be on an airplane. She was like, what do you want?
That's a pretty big contrast, going from performing to a bunch of people and then just kind of being stuck at home.
Absolutely. My cat has been enjoying my live stream, so I think that's about it.
Well, I'm sure your fans have as well. Greyson, so you mentioned that you are from Oklahoma, but I want to know if you could just tell us a bit about your background and, you know, obviously where you're from and sort of what life was like for you growing up.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm born and raised in a suburb just out of Oklahoma City, and truly just had a very sort of generic and kind of normal childhood growing up until I posted up a video when I was 12 years old, so literally 10 years ago. And it was a cover of me singing Lady Gaga's Paparazzi. I got my record deal at that point, and then have just, you know, been growing up in the industry, but have also just sort of had a unique experience of making music and learning what it was to become an artist. Also, you know, coming out, you know, when I was a bit older. You know, at this point in my career now, I'm just very focused on working on things that I really enjoy and giving music to my fans that I think feels authentic and honest. And yeah, we've been here 10 years doing it, so I have no intention of stopping anytime soon.
Well, that's great to hear. And it is a bit of a shock to the system to hear, because I remember seeing the video when it came out and thinking 10 years ago, I'm like, oh yeah, 10 years ago I was 100% in college. Great. So I remember the video, and then I'm sure many people do as well. And from there, it kind of feels like it sort of just took off. I mean, everyone from people like Ashton Kutcher and Ryan Seacrest and obviously Ellen, they were talking about the video. And then, of course, you appeared on Ellen. I know that you said it kind of just, you know, snowballed from there. But what was it like gaining that type of attention at such a young age? And how would you describe the time shortly after that?
I mean, it was absolutely bizarre. And I think, too, you have to remember that this was 2010. So, you know, there had been sort of viral moments on YouTube, but I don't know if there was necessarily a music moment, you know, like I had. So it was kind of the first for just everybody, and especially the music industry too. And it was absolutely chaotic and so bizarre. But I think what I was really blessed to have in that early stage of my career was really good mentors. And, you know, one of them being Lady Gaga. And, you know, she really took me under her wing and, you know, sort of told me, you know, what the importance was to be an artist and what it meant to put on a show and understanding what it meant to have a platform. And I truly think it was sort of those early lessons that has led me to have this connection with my fans and has led me, you know, to continue to do this. So I was really blessed for that, but it was absolutely bizarre going from a sixth grade math class to all of a sudden filling my first passport when I was 15.
Right. And I mean, I can't even imagine at the age of 12, you know, meeting someone like Lady Gaga. What was that experience like? There obviously was some sort of inspiration from her by performing Paparazzi, but was it just a completely surreal experience?
No, it really wasn't. And I think that's the beauty behind Gaga, is she's so real and she's so authentic and she looks you in the eyes and you feel so human around her. And I think I quickly understood that, okay, these people who are, you know, on the screen and who are selling records, they're just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to make art and they're trying to, you know, to stay true to themselves. And so I guess maybe it could have been surreal, but then after a few times of hanging out, it starts to feel very normal.
Right. So in 2017, you mentioned this a little bit, but in 2017, it was also a pretty big year for you. in July of that year, you came out, at the time, at least via Instagram. And I wanted to know what that was like for you coming out on a public platform, but also what motivated you to come out publicly then.
Yeah, well, I had already been out to my friends and family for like a few years, but I didn't really feel, I don't think I had the confidence yet to do it publicly. And I, was sort of just waiting for the right moment and kind of, just the right idea. And I had actually received a message from a fan online that was just a really sort of honest message about his story and about, what he was going to go through within his own coming out process. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the note, he said, I know you're not gay, but you're such a big inspiration and your music really inspires me. And I remember reading that and just looking at myself in the mirror and saying, okay, it's time to be confident enough. You need to be strong enough for this person and for everybody else who looks up to you. And so I wrote out a message and I very quickly put it on my Instagram. That day I was actually getting on an airplane. I remember going from LA back to Oklahoma and I posted it and I turned my phone off and I got on the plane.
Well, to get a message like that, especially at that time when you had family and friends that knew, but hadn't been completely publicly out, at least on a platform, I mean, it must have sort of felt like a real eye-opening moment to realize what sort of connection and influence you had over people.
Yeah, and I think it gave me a really big understanding too. In that post, I just posted a picture of a pride flag, mm-hmm. And I put my message because I think what I wanted the statement to sort of be was that I'm a person and I'm a very proud gay person as well. But the headline should not be about me. It should be about the youth in our country that are kicked out of their houses, that don't have the opportunities, the queer people of color that are constantly being oppressed day in, day out. And I didn't want the headline to be a pretty picture of me going, okay, this kid's coming out. Yeah. I wanted it to be something a bit more than that. And so it taught me a lot of lessons and of just how I can connect to the queer community and what ways I can sort of protect it and encourage it. And so it's been an amazing ride ever since.
That's really great to hear. I really admire your sort of mindset about it. It's obviously you are proud of who you are and you felt like, now is the time to say something, but at the same time, also taking a step out and looking at the bigger picture and realizing sort of, where our attention should be. But I do want to commend you for having done that because I know that even if you were out to family and friends, it is a big step in someone's life, whether it plays an insanely pivotal role or if it's just something that sort of happens, it is a step. And so I really wanted to commend you on that and being able to, use your platform and to help those who might look up to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. You reappeared on my radar again with your album Portraits. And even more recently, you've released some really, really great singles like Dancing Next to Me, Honeysuckle, and my personal favorite, Boots in the Video is awesome. I wanted to know what was the creation of your more recent music like compared to when your career first began and what sort of changed for you?
Well, starting with my last album, which was Portraits, which was released in 2019. So when I had turned 18, I was living out in LA, I was making music, and my career was just, as people say, it wasn't really going anywhere. Nothing was really working out, and I had just at that point, sort of run out of creativity. My confidence was kind of shot, and I just really wanted to do something else. And so I decided to go to college back in Oklahoma, and I had no intention of ever returning back to music. I didn't touch a piano for like a year. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be a part of it. And all of a sudden in my sophomore year of school, this album just kind of naturally started writing itself, which would eventually become Portraits. And what I told myself on coming back to music was that I wasn't going to cut any corners anymore. I wasn't going to do things that I didn't want to do. I was going to be involved in every part of my project, whether that would be the visual aspect or the writing, the production. I was finally going to take control of my career. And I think that was the biggest difference between where I've been in the past and where I am now. I didn't have a lot of control when I was younger. There were a lot of powers that be sort of trying to put me in a path. And right now I'm just making music and art that feels honest and authentic to me. And I'm very proud of it. And whether it goes super well or whether I end up bankrupt singing in a bar in Oklahoma, I'm cool with all possibilities.
Well, I would be a very happy attendant seeing you at a bar in Oklahoma. That'd be awesome. It seems like you hit on an important part of, not to say that your previous music music wasn't necessarily authentic maybe to you at the time or anything like that. But I think
it was pretty bad. Let's be real.
Well, I guess I just mean more like once you, not even just coming out, but, you know, that in addition to sort of just realizing where you are, taking a step back and sort of reapproaching it from a different perspective. I think that's where you're most honest. And then honestly, your most effective music comes out. And it really shows in the recent singles. They're so good.
Oh, thanks. Well, when anybody pokes fun at me for any of the older stuff, I'm always like, oh, yeah, you try to make a full-length album at 14, and then let's compare both of ours.
Totally. No, I can't even imagine that. Because you mentioned earlier, it's not just having a record label or not just putting an album out, but like you said, there had been viral videos at that time, but it wasn't super common to see people get a career basically out of putting themselves out there on YouTube. And that just completely catapulted you way more quickly than it probably would have if you were just to go to like a record label or anything like that. So I can't even imagine the pressure or just sort of like the whirlwind that it must have felt like to do something like that.
Yeah, it's funny as I'm getting older. I think for a long part of my career and kind of my life, I looked back at this particular chapter, right, which is that beginning moment, and I don't necessarily think I felt any sort of regret, but I kind of felt a bit embarrassed about it, right? Like I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to get away from it. Mm-hmm. And within the past 2 years now, I'm looking back at it and I am so proud of that kid for navigating all of that and for figuring it out. And truly when you kind of just talk about it and think about how bizarre it was. What a unique story. You know, it really is interesting and really sort of crazy. So I've definitely come to terms with it and sort of grown up within the story, I think, a lot within the past 2 years.
Absolutely. And also sort of the luck, not, you know, obviously it's based off of your hard work, but the great fortune to be able to take that narrative, own it, and then be able to sort of repurpose yourself in a way where you can put out music and art that feels more authentic to you.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's what we're doing now. And we're going to have a new album out this year. So I'm very excited for that.
That is very exciting. Congrats. That was actually my next question. I was going to ask if there's anything next for you, you know, in addition to an album, is there anything that you are dying to do, like venturing out of music, or if there's any other sort of art form that you really want to explore?
I think right now I'm very focused on just sort of telling my story throughout my early 20s. I'm so inspired right now, and I love making music, and I really think I'm just going to try to release as much as I can and sort of just continue this narrative. Mm-hmm. But I think in the meantime, you know, I'm writing a ton of music. I'm collaborating with other artists and working with different creatives, and so I feel creatively very energized right now. But for the moment this year, we're figuring out what's going to happen with the touring schedule, you know, because of the pandemic and some travel restrictions. But we will have a body of work coming out, and I'm going to keep on doing what I do and pissing people off.
Great. That's exciting, man. I can't wait to hear the album. If it's, you know, if the singles especially recently are any indication, I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. My last question for you really is, with this month being Pride Month, are there any words of wisdom or advice that you have for the LGBTQ plus community?
Yes, I think my biggest piece of advice would be to remember that your story is individualistic, that it's your own, that it doesn't cater to any other mold or any, you know, other person's journey. And I think this month is such a good time to really just celebrate our community and really find strength within each other and just realize within all those individual storylines, we're all in this together, and we put up a much better fight when we're united. So I think celebrate however you can safely, and I would just say happy Pride. Enjoy it. Enjoy this month.
A happy Pride indeed. Greyson, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it, and it's so cool to see the trajectory of your career from when you were so young and to now and to adulthood. I can't wait to see the rest of the body of work for your album, and I know fans can either. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Awesome. Thank you. Happy Pride.
Thank you, you too. Take care. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Greyson Chance. You can get more details on him on Twitter and Instagram at Greyson Chance. That's GreySonChance, and visit his website at GreysonChancemusic.com. It's Mornings with Eloy on Hot 101.7.